A global billion-dollar company and a city council that might delay one of the biggest retail launches in New Zealand history for a karakia. This isn't fiction, it's Auckland. IKEA wants to build in Sylvia Park, but before they touched the soil, they needed cultural approval and 3 separate blessings from mana whenua. And they need to give 10 days notice for each one. Behind that decision is a council divided, bureaucrats buried in paperwork and politicians too afraid to say what they really think. Except one, Maurice. He's been a cabinet minister, he's one of our favourite guests, and he's an Auckland councillor. What the hell is going on?
Financial freedom faster. Financial freedom faster.
If you like watching other people make money, keep scrolling. But if you're the kind of person who wants the edge, the insight before the headlines, hit subscribe. Because in 2025, more New Zealand investors get their housing intel from this show than anywhere else on YouTube. The smart ones already know, and now you do too. Maurice, what's your take on the IKEA Sylvia Park concept deal, the consent deal with mana whenua?
It's in keeping with where we've been going for a long time, adding all sorts of costs and all sorts of delays to our projects that need to be done, and need to be done as efficiently as we can. And I am sort of not surprised where I hear a lot of big organisations saying now, we're giving up. We're not going to do any more in New Zealand. It's just too hard. I don't understand why Māori have any special place in this stuff. If they're impacted, if it's their property that has a road being built through it or sludge tipped on it, they've got every right, along with any other New Zealander, to make an objection and say you're damaging our property or our area or whatever. And so they should. But so should the Chinese population, so should the Indian population, if it's affecting them. But for some reason, we've now gone to the sort of virtue signalling of we will allow Māori to have a whole range of on top of everybody else's rights to literally delay. And that's all these things do, delay and add cost. And in the end, we're already not that flasher place to be doing investment in. This just makes it even slightly worse. Now, the first hit back I get from people is, oh, you're a racist. And I think I'm quite the opposite. I was a Minister of Broadcasting. I did 24 hui across the country about what was going to help Māori protect their language. I then set up 23 Māori radio stations from the very top of the north to the very bottom of the south. I set up Te Reo Whakapuaki Irirangi, which is what known in the marketplace as Te Maunga Pāho, the Māori Broadcasting Agency. There wasn't one, so we set up a Māori funding agency to fund it, and that was to protect Te Reo so that Te Reo didn't die off in this country. So I think I've got some chops in the steaks in here.
Has Auckland Council made it too hard to build? And what needs to change in the way of resource consents and housing approvals, how they're getting handled?
Well, Auckland Council's got something wrong with it as well, and I will happily let them take some blame for some of what we impose, but many of the things we do, we're given that directive from the Resource Management Act. You need to have the following. You must do the following. You must do a cultural consent process. You must know about the value of it. But I've been to karakia at the early hours of the morning where the mana whenua will come along and speak for half an hour in Māori. And not one of us in the room, not one of us, because I've checked, knows what they said. Knows what they're saying.
With the RMA changes that are being drafted and looking to come through, are we going to be fixing some of these challenges or just pushing that can down the road more?
Well, I have to say I've become quite jaundiced about where this may go. When the current government got elected, Simeon Brown in particular set out, we're not doing that, we're changing the names, the road signs are going to be going back to English where everyone can understand what they were, and I thought, this is fantastic. But the momentum for that seems to have gone, and now I see with what Erica Stanford's doing in the education space, with what I hear is being done in a whole lot of other spaces across government, it's like, no, it's too hard, we don't want to be accused of being racist. I don't want anybody who's racist to be involved in running this country. I do not want that. And my definition of a racist is someone who treats people differently based on their ethnicity. That is wrong. That is disgraceful. I should not be allowed to say, little Chinese kid, you don't get to come here. Little Indian boy, you can't go to that building. You can't. That is wrong. But somehow we have that already, especially with the RMA, when anyone affected by it can complain. But now we've got to add an extra layer over the top of it, and it's the uncertainty and the cost. And when I look at the bus stations here in the Eastern Busway, they're going to be at Edgewater, they're going to be at Burswood, and they're going to be at Gossamer, Is that what they're going to be called so you know without? No, they're going to be given names I can't even pronounce or know what they even mean. When the light meets the flax on the water level or something is one of the first. So when you say I'll meet you at the whatever bus station, you won't know, and so on. That in my view is just virtue signalling, adding unbelievable costs for no reason. And what I love about some of these things where you have to have these karakias and you have to have the cultural sort of survey being done. If they were doing it of their own volition and said, well, we want to come along and do it, I said, oh, well, but you have no idea the sums of koha that get transferred to them in order to hold a karakia to protect us from and ward off the evil spirits. And I've raised that question with them about some of the roading when we were building them as minister. I said, so this will make the road safer now that we've done the blessing and water off. And they looked at me like I'd literally lost the plot. And I said, well, that's what this karakia was for, to make the road safe. Yes. So I said, we'll have better road statistics on that one than roads in the area. No, we'll have the same. I said, so it hasn't warded off road accidents and deaths. No, so what did it do? What did we spend a whole lot of money on the karakia and the early morning breakfast and the big crowd that's gathered here? What did we do this for?
Just made us feel good, I guess. And
well, it didn't make me feel good, but it made others.
So it's a fear of offending cultural groups, I guess, is slowing down the process to date of getting simpler rules into place. Is the council too risk adverse to make these changes or too woke? And we've seen a week or so ago that the government has imposed new rules for zoning onto the Auckland Council.
Well, it's going to, yes.
They're going to. Is that the stage that we're at? We have to take responsibility away from councils and impose things at a government level?
Well, because they had imposed the previous one, which was just absolute crap. This medium density residential standard stuff, the MDRS that they put on us, they allowed you to build 3-story, 3 buildings right next to a house that was a lovely piece of property on a lovely piece of land that they'd paid a premium to live in some of the outer suburbs. What I believe is if you're going to do intensification and go up, then you've got to pick some of those real specific corridors where the rail line runs and where the public bus transport systems run, and then say this is where we'll allow you to do quite strong intensification. I think the government was saying 15 stories within the city of the city rail link and 10 stories when you're outside of the CBD. But we're going to take away the demand for the MDRS within Half Moon Bay. And you're not going to end up one morning waking up to find some monstrosity with no car parks, 2-bedroom nothingness in them, and 17 of them all on one unit. So I think it's a good move, and it's not because the government's directing us. What they're doing is taking the old direction off the books, thank God. It was a stupid direction. I was embarrassed that the National Party signed up. I said to several of my National Party friends, if you want to do something bipartisan, do something that's really good. That was one of the worst things you've ever signed up to, and they know it. And they say, oh, I don't know what, he even made us do it. So they made a stupid mistake. It's being corrected. Good stuff. And I think if you go New North Road of an extension to Karangahape Road, or you take some of the Great South Road stuff down through Penrose, there are areas where there are sort of second-hand car lots and all sorts of that you can turn into phenomenally dense populated high-rise and allow people to walk out the door and 100 yards down the road, get on a train.
Okay, so there's a whole bunch of young Kiwis are looking forward. They're not thinking they're ever going to be able to afford it to buy a property. We've had 47 years out of the last 50. We haven't built enough properties. How does the government and council work to create a situation where we don't have a supply problem with property?
Yeah, well, it's quite simple. And that's what the government has said to us. You've got to show that you've got enough capacity to meet the demands of growth for the next 30 years. There is no question we can do that without even going to greenfields, which is new pastures outside of our limits, because intensification in the right parts of town, you can get, like they have in nearly every other major city in the world, quite large. You've got to be very careful not to make a ghetto out of it. You've got to be very careful to put proper community facilities and parks and schools and so on. But the idea of being able to, when I worked for British Airways and lived in London, I never owned a car. I never wanted to own a car. I couldn't use a car. But I'd walk out of my apartment, walk along the road a few hundred metres, and I'd walk down into a tube, and I could go to anywhere in London. I could go to Twickenham to watch rugby. I could go and watch the tennis at Wimbledon.
So is the council going to get in the way of this new zoning?
No, I think we're looking to be quite strongly supportive. I'm only guessing because we've got to vote on it when it finally gets there. But the general chatter around the council table is that everybody thought the MDRS was what they call Plan Change 78 was a mistake, really big mistake. putting unbelievable eyesores right next to your property. There's one just up here behind Howick Primary School where they took 2 houses away and have built a block with 17 units in it. No car parks, not allowed them in the building. So now you're going to park up and down the street. They are an eyesore in terms of their size. They're literally little thing you'd see at the Japanese sort of terminal at the airport, you know, a bedroom and a toilet beside it and a little kitchen bench. That is not what we were meaning by growing the capacity. But you can find plenty of capacity, especially upwards in some of those major transport corridors. I'm delighted the government have seen fit to scrap the MDRS and move in the right direction. And we'll have some ability within that to look at where we do grow. I mean, we're already doing a massive growth if you think out at a Drury at the bottom of Auckland. But I think we've got to be very careful about building too many of outs, but a lot of ups can be done.
Well, I know it's a controversial topic around development contributions and the change with levies. How does council and government incentivize, make it an environment that makes it easier for developers to build
Yeah.
and more attractive to build? Because, you know, we've got the supply problem.
Oh, you got to watch cost shifting here, because if you go and build something new like Drury, and everyone sees Drury and they go, oh, well, that's fantastic. Why are you charging so much development levy? What is added on is unbelievable flow-ons. You've got to now have parks. You've got to have libraries. You've got to have swimming pools, because those people will demand it. We're already getting it from Flatbush community. We don't have our own library. We don't have our own swimming pool. That Howick's got one. Pakaranga's got one else. So then you get another big demand of public services that we're going to have to pay, but the developer should have been contributing to those. And then we get things like the Southern Motorway can't cope right now. You hear the morning radio talking about coming in from Drury. It's just locked, blocked and stopped. So you need at least another lane on the motorway either side, which is hundreds of millions of dollars to do. So if you are going to build that and make money out of it, then you also have to contribute to the true costs of building it. And no one likes the true cost. They go, oh, it's only the bit of land and I put some pipes under the water to do the sewage and the water, and then that's it. No, that's not even close to it. There is so much cost. Now, why I like the going up and in the main transport corridors and the rail line and so on is that you've got a huge amount of the facilities you need already there, and you're not adding to the motorway traffic and so on by people who will be using those apartments to go in and out of the city using public transport. That's a real solution.
And what are you imagining people are going to campaign on as part of their policy to be voted into council to get rid of some of these planning laws and zoning bottlenecks that we've got at the moment?
Well, I hope they do, but what you're going to find is the NIMBY syndrome. You're already getting it around the Mount Eden railway station. They don't want, they've got these lovely old villas that are been heritage status, and we don't want to have them ruined by someone building some high-rise near us. You literally will have a NIMBY situation anywhere you go in Auckland. My view is, how about we make it as least intrusive as we can for the vast bulk of people, and only those areas which are on a rail corridor or are on a big public transport route where the major bus lines are running and so on, that we actually do go for the high-rise, big density stuff, and that we say we scrap the idea of, you can drive around this electorate right now and there's some just ghastly examples of things that have been built that are grossly inappropriate and have taken up all the land right up to the boundary, and people are saying, well, that's ruined the value of my property. You don't need to do that. If you needed to do it, I'd do it, but you don't need to.
How do we make Auckland the most livable country 30 years into the future? I don't think you'll be on the council by then.
I'll only be halfway through my term. Look, the best way to make Auckland a great place is to take out all of the ridiculous costs and barriers and so on that should not be there and do not need to be there, and achieve nothing. And we were talking before about the whole Māori cultural thing. That's one of them, but there are plenty of others. And we're going on and on about, oh, what are we going to do with regards to climate change? Yes, we should try to get people using public transport. Well, my view on the high rise will get more of that. But let's start penalising people who want to try and make something happen by putting them in the Environment Court. I think IKEA were in the Environment Court for 4 years, and now 2 years on down the track, they're still facing all sorts of nonsense. And I have to say, I've not spoken to anybody of the sort of boss class of IKEA, but I bet they're sitting back in the suite and go, what the hell have we struck? What is going on here? And we will literally write ourselves out of the book if we keep doing that. We have got to be attractive for investment. We've got to want foreign investment coming in and saying, this is where you go, this will get fantastic results, I'll make money, but we'll also deliver something fantastic for the nation, for the city, for the community, for the whatever. And we are not in that space right now. So I've sort of lost a bit of my thinking that the government's going to take us there. I hope they do. Simeon Brown a year ago announced a fantastic new local government reform bill. We're getting rid of all the four well-beings. We're getting rid of a whole range of the nonsense stuff and focusing local authorities back to their core role and fun. He did the announcement. I was literally dancing around the maypole. So happy. They've not even introduced the bill yet.
No doubt they'll be campaigning.
They have
soon.
not even introduced the bill to do it yet.
They'll be campaigning soon to say they'll be doing it next time.
Oh, yeah, next time, or watch this space, or we're looking into it.
I appreciate your insights today.
There's a hole out in my backyard and I'm looking into it.
Appreciate your insights today, Maurice, and we'll look forward to catching up
Delighted
with
to.
you again soon.
Thank you.
Just a reminder, your competition has already hit subscribe on the fastest growing property and investment channel in New Zealand. They're getting the tips, the tricks, and the juicy insights before you've even finished your coffee. They're buying, building, banking profits while you're still sitting there thinking, should I click a button? Come on, be clever, hit subscribe, or don't, and enjoy watching everyone else get rich.